Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today is Tag Tuesday, so I'm here with another tag for you. This is a tag created by Matthew over at Mayberry Book Club, which I saw on his channel. I just thought was fun, and it's called Books Steve Hasn't Read. And Steve in the title or the tag is a reference to our own Steve Donahue, the resident arbiter of literary taste here in our little corner of BookTube, and someone with whom I frequently disagree about books and authors, and I'm always enjoy watching Steve's videos and his pronouncements and his rants, and I always enjoy it when there is something that Steve and I definitely agree about. And one of those things, by the way, is movie theater popcorn, which is the best reason to go see a movie at a movie theater. But I just thought this was fun, and so I thought I wanted to do it. I don't know what I expect Steve to do in response, if he even sees this, but I thought it would be fun just to kind of come up with a list of 10 books that I have on my shelves, 10 books I've read. I have to have read them. They can't just be books that I own. 10 books that I've read here on my shelves, just to see if Steve's read them. I don't know, maybe Steve will leave me a comment telling me he's read all of them, or if I get lucky and pick one that he hasn't read, that he would tell me that as well. So I just have here really quickly 10 books. So my first book is the Tonbo Kulingi, which I'm sure I mispronounced the name. Sorry, Jason. Maybe you can correct me on the pronunciation. This is the epic story of Ireland. It tells the story of the Great Ulster Cattle Raid and the tales of Cuchulainn, the great Irish hero, which I reread this year, along with Crystal from Biblio Atlas, and I kind of enjoyed it, even though kind of near the end I thought it got a little bit repetitive. But you know, Steve is Irish American. I just wondered if you ever read this. I'm pretty sure he has, but this was probably the only like classic that I could think of that maybe Steve hadn't read. So that's my number one. My second book is one of the most important works of fiction in my own life, which I won't go into why that's true. Again, that is Through the Wheat by Thomas Boyd. This is in my opinion, and at the time it was published, and afterwards in the opinion of many reviewers, the kind of classic American novel of World War I and the experience of World War I soldiers. This book played a large role in my academic career and in my intellectual career, such as it is. I'll leave it at that, but I'm also wondering if Steve's ever read that. One of the things that I tried to make sure I did in choosing my 10 books, I'll say this now, is not to choose something that I intentionally knew, or an author I intentionally know, that Steve doesn't like. That seemed like it might be too easy. You know, Steve has a fairly violent reaction to Cormac McCarthy and Ernest Hemingway, and I believe he hates Faulkner as well, and I believe I got a Fitzgerald reference once in one of my videos. So I stayed away from people like that. I intentionally didn't choose authors who I just know he doesn't like. But I wasn't afraid to choose a relatively recent author and a relatively recent duology. And this book is called River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. I actually did a video review of the duology here, the Hippo duology. This is a story about American adventurers and outlaws in kind of post-Civil War Louisiana, in a world in which hippos have been introduced as animals for various purposes. But I really enjoy these kind of adventure stories, and I just wondered if Steve had read them. This would, for Steve, would probably take him, I don't know. I'm guessing this is a 45-minute read for Steve. So I wonder if Steve's seen the Hippo duology. I love hippos, wearing my hippo shirt today. If Steve had seen the Hippo duology and read Sarah Gailey. The fourth book I chose is The Antiquarian by Gustavo Favaron Patrao. Probably mispronounced his name as well. This is The Antiquarian. This is a book that was featured on Mark Nash's channel. Mark and I did the 112-page challenge, where I sent him page 112 from some books that I had, and he sent me some from his. We kind of decided which of those books we liked the best. This is the book that I sent him that he liked the best, and he went out, or he got a copy of it, and he read it, and so I just wondered if Steve had ever read this book. It didn't come out all that long ago, even though for me not all that long ago may have been like 2003, because when you're 52, time is relative. Another book which I really like a lot, and I'm not sure, wasn't sure if Steve had read, is Modern Baptist by James Wilcox. James Wilcox is an American Southern writer who published a lot in the late 80s, early 90s, kind of satirical, humorous books about the South. This is considered his best book. He's still alive. I believe he teaches at LSU, but I don't know that he writes anymore. He probably published, I want to say, 8 books, most of them set in the South. As I said, this one is the funniest one and the one I like the best, and I'm wondering if Steve had read that. And then I went for a more modern classic, and I'm pretty sure Steve has read this. Even picking this up right now, it definitely feels like a Steve read, and I featured this in a series on books I like just because of the aesthetics of the book. This is A Life by Italo Svevo. Svevo was a contemporary of James Joyce, and he was an Italian author. And he wrote this and a few other books, I believe, right after the turn of the 20th century. This was a book I enjoyed okay. Well, not my favorite, a fairly bleak take on humanity, which, maybe that's right up Steve's alley, but I don't know if Steve's ever read that, so I thought I'd choose that for my 10. And then I went nonfiction. I knew I went nonfiction. I was in kind of big trouble. So I thought I'd do something different. I went with a graphic novel, which I read last year. This is book 1 of the March series, which basically is a biographical graphic novel series about the life and civil rights work of John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, who is one of my personal heroes. I really enjoyed these. There are 3 of them. I think they do a great job of introducing the civil rights movement and kind of, I think, arguing for the idea that John Lewis is a national treasure in the civil rights movement. So I'm pretty sure Steve's aware of these, not sure if he's read those. And then I went for University Presses, which I realize, again, I'm in some danger here with Steve and University Presses, and I do know he does read books from Johns Hopkins, but I picked 2 of my favorite titles, and these have been featured on the channel before. One is Gramercy Park by Carol Klein. This is the story of the Gramercy Park intellectual community of actors and writers and playwrights in New York City I believe around the mid 19th century in the United States of America, which I just loved. I love this book. I love intellectual histories like this. I found out, in thinking about this, I love books that deal obviously with writers, authors, creative people, and also with like a community of those people and how they interact with one another. So I really like this book. And then another book from Johns Hopkins University Press, which I featured on my channel before, is A Spirited Resistance by Gregory Evans Dowd. This really kind of was an eye-opening look at relationships between Native Americans and Americans as imperialists in the settlement of the colonies and the encroachment on the Ohio territory. And it explained, I think, a lot of the ways in which Native Americans reacted that were clearly misinterpreted as signs of savagery or just randomness by the Americans. But Tecumseh features a lot in this, and Tecumseh is one of those people from history that I admire. So I wonder if Steve's read that. And then the last of my 10 books is a book I'm pretty sure Steve's read, even though I don't think he cares for Joyce or Ulysses at all, so maybe he skipped it, and that is The Most Dangerous Book, The Battle for James Joyce's Ulysses by Kevin Birmingham. This is a fairly recent book. I want to say it came out sometime around 2014, 2015, and it basically just tells the story of the difficulty in getting Ulysses published at all, and then getting it published here in the United States of America. And it really is kind of an interesting take on censorship and kind of how we view books and art through that light, and hopefully how we've kind of changed and become open-minded about those things. Anyway, those are my 10 books. Steve, if you see this video, let me know in the comments section below how many of the 10 I found, how many of my 10 books you haven't read, or if you read them all, I guess you could let me know that too. You could throw me a bone and tell me you hadn't read one of them. Maybe the Hippo book. Anyway, this was fun to do. I'm going to tag people who I know have interactions with Steve, so I'm going to tag some of my regulars. Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse. Jason, this sounds like a tag that you should do. I'm always tag. Also want to tag Kelly from books I'm not reading. I want to tag Britta. Britta, you still haven't done my At the Gym tag. And I know you're trying to catch up on your tags, but you could do this one first because I think this one would be fun to do. So Britta Bohler, I'm tagging you. I'm going to tag Lukas from Totally Pretentious because I love tagging Lukas in these videos. And anybody else who wants to do it. Overlook the fact that Steve smells. overlook the fact, that Steve is really opinionated, and remember that Steve is has an incredibly generous spirit, and is a great booktuber. And let's see how many books we can find that collectively he hasn't read. Anyway, Matthew, thanks for creating this great tag. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.